What's up and welcome to Art Therapy, the show where I give commentary about the art that impacts me the most and where together we're finding the life in lyrics. We're here today to talk about Ray Vaughn. His mixtape, The Good, the Bad, and the Dollar Menu, is an incredibly vulnerable take on what a traditional rap album sounds like in 2025, and if anybody clicks on this video who hasn't listened to it yet, I highly recommend it. It strikes a very satisfying balance between storytelling, genuine heartfelt words, and just entertaining music to listen to. There's a lot to be unpacked on the album, but today I want to focus on some aspects of one of my favorite songs, Flat Shasta. The song is placed in the tape right after a voicemail from his mom, which tees up the track pretty perfectly as the song is largely a letter to her. The song plays heavily for me as someone who's had a very complex relationship with my own mother, and it feels validating to hear it put into words in this way. In the first lines, we get an outline of where his relationship with his mother started compared to where it is now. We hear that it started with him witnessing his mother committing crimes from an early age, and it's now reached a point where he doesn't know what to say when people ask him about her. Then we get a visualization of Vaughn meeting with his mom and there being so much tension that he tries to break it with a joke, and we're meant to sympathize with this. Next, we get lines about how his mother has a mental illness but won't seek treatment, how the last thing she wants in this world is to be called crazy, and how he hopes that his mother's mental illness doesn't beat out her ability to fight it off, even without the appropriate treatment, how he wishes he could save her. Anybody who has a complicated relationship with their mom, or a parent in general, can find a point of relatability on this song, not just because of the lyrical content, but because of the feeling behind it. The specifics of the song only serve to tell an individual's story, but the archetype of emotionally endangered guardian figure and child who wants to be able to save them is an all too common one that plenty of people can relate to. It's one that I can relate to. Since I can remember, I've always wished to be able to help my family members and other loved ones with their struggles, and that feeling can create a lot of developmental barriers in a person's life, as they shift their focus from their own well-being and progression to that of others. A person who grows up in an environment full of emotional dysregulation can also find it harder later in life to find emotional regulation for themselves, due to the fact that there was an interruption in having it modeled for them. This is a cycle that goes and can spiral out of control if nobody stops it. The first stage of stopping that cycle is to identify its existence in the first place, which is, in a way, what I think this album is about. It's about identifying all of the struggles you've been given in life, and reaching a point where you've now made it out of the environment that gave you those struggles, only to figure out that there's more residue still stuck on you. If you can't tell, this set of lines is the main reason why I wanted to talk about this song, because it says a lot. It's a deeply personal story, but it reflects our society as a whole. We all know that the further back we go in our generations, the less we know and are willing to understand about mental health discussion. But the story told in this verse highlights something a bit more specific. It highlights the Black mental health experience, at least in America. Undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, and otherwise untreated mental illness is an issue that disproportionately affects the Black population in this country, and the story we hear on this song is just a single example of the consequences. Untreated mental illness makes it harder to keep jobs, shelter, and overall stability, which generally leads to more desperation, and that desperation leads to higher rates of incarceration. The Black population in America are reportedly 5 times more likely to be imprisoned than the white demographic, and make up 40% of the unhoused. I believe the stories of the people who make up those statistics aren't so dissimilar to the one we hear on this album. I believe we as a culture have tons of unheard examples of this same problem going on, which is one of the main reasons why I love this song so much. It shines a light on these issues in an inescapably true way. The issue of untreated mental illness in the Black community is an incredibly complex one, as there are many different factors that contribute to it. 2 of the main ones being stigma placed on mental health topics in the Black community, and cultural insensitivity in the healthcare system. It's become fact at this point that cultural stigma surrounding mental health topics is more prevalent in minority groups, and there are plenty of reasons for this. There have historically been reasons to distrust the American medical system, due to systemic malpractice and general coldness towards people of color. For example, take the unethical 40-year Tuskegee untreated syphilis study, which ran from 1932 to 1972, and specifically targeted African American males who had contracted the disease. This and a general disregard for the safety and comfort of black people in the context of the American healthcare system have led to the mistrust and lack of confidence that tons of black people have in healthcare. This has a significant impact on our ability to seek help in the first place for physical or mental ailments. Only 25% of black adults seek mental health treatment when needed, compared to 40% of white Americans, and black Americans are more likely to seek help through emergency rooms rather than through specialists, often presenting with more severe symptoms due to delayed treatment. The combination of those factors has led to alarmingly increased rates of people in our communities taking their own lives, and ending up in otherwise dire situations due to the fact that they're less likely to seek treatment. This lack of willingness to seek treatment may be a simply cultural effect that we see, and it may not go deeper than that, but it may also represent an epigenetic change in the black population. Epigenetics refers to how behavioral and environmental factors play into the way our DNA works. There's been recent study of epigenetics that suggests traumas and negative reaction to stimuli can be passed down through generations. If you want to hear more about that, I'll link to the Star Talk episode about it in the description and in the card above. But my point here is that mistrust and negative associations can be passed down from generation to generation without any concerted effort to do so. This can result in people being skittish about something even without a personal story as to why, and that's what I believe has happened to us in the context of healthcare in America. We got conditioned to believe we wouldn't receive actual care from that system, and in fact got actual evidence of the opposite. The effects of that can still be seen today, with black people knowing they need care and still refusing it. Stigma also comes from the ingrained idea that seeking help makes you weak or crazy. It's difficult to pin down the origins of this when talking about specifically the black population, but we can also zoom out and look at how mental health in general was handled just a couple generations ago and see where exactly that came from. If you go back those couple generations, you see the treatment of people back then who had mental illness, and the picture becomes clear. They were treated like animals, forced to live in less than human conditions, and often abused. The epigenetic effect of that is what we see today, with people refusing help just not to be seen as crazy. It's the same thinking people had nearly 100 years ago. Who would want to be like those who get thrown in asylums? It's this label that keeps plenty of people from seeking treatment while their illness progresses more and more until it becomes dangerous and can no longer be ignored. Sadly, by that point, for plenty of individuals, it results in situations of being unhoused or incarcerated, like we were talking about before. We also see people being discouraged from seeking treatment nowadays because of current cultural insensitivities, and because of the fact that the system wasn't really built with people of color in mind. An example of this is that until recently, our higher education system barely showed medical students how different diseases looked on darker skin. Therefore, there are plenty of doctors and dermatologists who became professionals without ever really understanding how to diagnose or care for people of color. This has resulted in the fact that a 2024 study found dermatologists were 4 percentage points less accurate diagnosing diseases on darker skin, with general practitioners showing a similar bias. This type of cultural insensitivity is less able to have concrete evidence provided when it comes to mental health, but there's definitely still a gap there. Only 2% of psychiatrists are black, only 4% of psychologists are black, and 22% of social workers are black, which still lags behind in terms of proportion to the overall population. This results in black people not feeling represented in the mental health field, thus being less likely to seek help from an industry they don't see themselves in. This is why representation is important. The lack of it results in effects like these that snowball into the staggering statistics we've historically seen in this country. There is a way to fix this lack of cultural representation though, by having more black advocates of mental health to help blast away this idea that seeking treatment makes you weak or crazy. We're always making progress, but there's also always people out there who still really need that. And that's another reason why I love this album so much. It's a black man standing up in front of a major label audience, being willing to say the word trauma without blinking, without trivializing the word, making fun of it, or implying that it doesn't exist. It's a black man owning his journey, all of it, without any part spared, including mental health. On the next lines in the verse, we hear about how his mother says a lot of drastic things that can't be taken back, and Vaughn asks if this is the reason why his father left. We get lines about how his sister acts just like his mom, and about how he was one of 7 kids that his mother had by 25 years old. He says that he doesn't see his mother when he looks her in the eyes, and even alludes to an attempt on her own life that she made in front of her children as well. And this is the kind of spiraling out of control I was talking about before, which is the result of an inability to feel like genuine treatment is accessible to you. The kind of situation that can only be improved by us having more positive, safe, and productive mental health conversations in the Black community. The kind of thing that can only be prevented through early intervention and access to culturally sensitive care. This is why we need more representation like this, so that the next generations don't end up in the same positions as the ones before. Next, we get the chorus, and I can't describe these lines as anything else but pleading. It's pleading to his mother to let him have some of the joy they used to experience together. It's pleading for her not to leave, asking her not to go, and if I'm to take some liberty in interpretation, it's asking her to try to get better, asking her to put down all of the stigma, asking her to get past the cultural insensitivities and lack of representation. It's asking her to put down those things and choose to get better. After that is the second verse, which starts with a question. I wonder if the reason why it's hard for me to treat women right is because I never saw you get treated right. It then states that if his mother passes along the cycle of generational trauma and pain, he'll be messed up for life. These lines acknowledge the cyclical nature of issues that take place within a family, and shine a light on the fact that in our communities, there are plenty of people that never make it out of the shadow they were born into. Some people never make it out of that generational cycle. But I believe Vaughn is on his way, simply due to the emotional intelligence it takes to identify and define those struggles. The depth of mind it takes to make the art he's made. I believe that regardless of if he ever does manage to shake those demons, he has the potential to. He has the potential to transfer the negative energy of the generational pain into positive momentum of healing. But even if he isn't able to, nobody can blame him. It isn't conducive to a healing environment to blame the people that were born into messed up situations for staying locked into that mindset. We hear Vaughn feeling defeated, feeling like he's lost the mother he once knew and pleading to get her back. We get another hook, then a refrain. Mama, if you hear me, then I'm still your son. Even when the darkness comes, I won't run. I pray one day that you'll find your way back and that your Shasta never goes flat. On the outro, we get him saying, I'm sorry for not noticing sooner, which is a line that cuts deep to me, because whenever a child goes through what Vaughn has, guilt is unfortunately a natural response. Your mind tells you that if you had noticed the issues sooner, you would have been able to change the whole situation. You would have been able to help. I know that's how I feel about my mom. It's an incredibly unfortunate reality because the simple fact is that you're the child in the relationship. That shouldn't be on your shoulders. And that's a trauma I can imagine a lot of us in the Black community have, watching our parents struggle without being able to help. A lot of us have things on our backs weighing us down that should have never been there in the first place. But the way for us to heal those things and to get that weight off of us is to talk about it more, make art about it more, seek treatment for it more, seek therapy for it more. The way for us to achieve that healing potential I talked about earlier is to keep getting things like this. That's the only way for us to come back from the place that we got shoved down into generations ago. The only way is to get comfortable having the uncomfortable conversations. We have to get more comfortable exploring our internal mental emotional landscapes and evaluating where we're at from a mental health standpoint. We need more people that are willing to start the journey of identifying our traumas and healing them. Basically what I'm saying is we need more Ray Vaughns. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you watched this far, thank you, and you might as well like the video and subscribe if you want more content like this. I'm out. See you next time.